remotely from your location. Councilmember Cousins.
Present remotely from the city of Dexter.
Councilmember Fisher. I did not see her earlier, so.
She's not on yet.
No, okay, thank you. Councilmember Griffin.
Present remotely, City of Dexter.
Councilmember Hubbard.
Present remotely from the city of Dexter.
Councilmember Knight.
Present from Dexter.
Councilmember Michelle's.
Present remotely in the city of Dexter, 2 houses from Waz remote location.
Mayor Keough.
Present remotely from my home in Dexter, Michigan.
Student Rep Gilbert.
Present remotely from Webster Township.
And Student Rep Malik.
Present. I'm on the road now, so I will be in Dexter.
Okay.
I'm on M14.
Okay, well, we won't put your exact location.
It's going to be moving all the time anyway, so.
That's right. Thank you.
At the very least,
Okay,
it's Washtenaw County.
Yes.
Thank you, Carol. Item
Okay.
C on our agenda tonight is approval of the meeting minutes from our regular city council meeting of December 28th.
I'll move those minutes.
Thank you, Julie. Moved by Knight.
I'll second.
Did I hear a second?
Jamie.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. Thanks, Jamie. Second by Griffin. So moved by Knight, second by Griffin. Julie, anything to change or notice?
I didn't see anything.
Okay. Ms. Griffin?
Yeah, it's fine to me.
Okay. Other members of council?
Not a correction, but just something that came to my mind. On page 3 of 68 under K old business, I know there's an effort to that text there. That the old business came from a previous meeting. It took me a couple times reading through that before I got to the next page to realize that this was actually saying, this is how it got here to this meeting. So maybe, I'm not sure if anyone else, or if everyone else is okay with it, I'll leave it be, but maybe in the future we can consider that this, just saying that this was postponed from a previous meeting.
Yeah, I'm good with your suggestion. I'm okay with it. Carol, do you understand the change?
Carol, you're muted.
Okay, now I'm ready. No, I didn't get that because there was such a clamor in between when Zach started speaking. So, Zach, can you repeat, please?
On page 3 of 68 under K1, the old business there, just some sort of a text that says this was postponed from this previous meeting. It kind of alludes to that, but one has to read through it a couple of times to get that.
That should be out front rather than in the
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other council comments on the minutes? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the minutes.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes.
Knight?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes, I don't know.
We have, okay, oh, I didn't hear you. I just finally did hear you. Hubbard?
Yes.
Fisher? Nothing yet?
Nope, still absent.
Okay, thank you. Cousins
Yes.
and Keough?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. We have no prearranged participation this evening, so we'll move on to item E, approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion. I'd like to make a comment about it as well, okay?
Okay, moved by Cousins. Is there a second by someone?
I'll second.
Second by Knight. Thank you for that. Julie. Okay, Paul?
On the actual agenda, you'll notice that it says, I think this is just a thing that happened in the past, and that on the consent agenda, it mentions that the bill are standing under consent agenda. Discussion of the budget and finance matters will be covered under the mayor's report as a standing item. In the meantime, what we did, we inserted a council comments in the middle there between the two of them. So maybe we just need to reword that wording up there in the top of the consent agenda to indicate that, so that we don't get, anybody doesn't get confused. And we have that after the council reports. Does that make sense to anybody?
No.
Okay, well, to me, it made an assumption because we didn't have council reports, Julie, that the discussion of the budget will be reviewed or covered under the mayor's report. Well, that was a item for council reports. So it has to be after the council reports, not as part of it, unless he includes that and say, I'll deal with it later, in my opinion. Just a matter of trying to keep things in order, that's all. Not a big deal, but I just thought the order should be identified
Okay,
there.
we can review that and clean it up.
Okay, that's all
I think,
I don't need a motion tonight or anything. I just to comment what I happened to notice when I read that. Because I'd be honest, I don't think I've read that under their item for a long time, what it says.
okay,
I can take a look at that, Paul.
Thanks, Justin.
okay, so we have a motion by Cousins, second by Knight to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the agenda other than Paul's comment?
I
Okay,
have a
Ms.
question.
Jones, if you could call the vote to approve the agenda?
Jamie has a
Oh, I'm not hearing her very well at all tonight, sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and I'm just figuring out how to find my raise hand feature again. Question. I don't know. So as part of the zoning ordinance subcommittee, I didn't look back and see what happened at the planning commission last week. I was under the impression that the subcommittee was possibly going to be created at tonight's meeting, but maybe there's still time for it to be at the later meeting in January. I guess I don't know what the status is, if that's something that had to happen tonight or if it can happen in January or later in the month.
I'm sorry, Jamie, were you asking me?
I don't know when the first meeting of the subcommittee is, but I do have two people in mind that have asked to be on the ordinance review committee. So if it can wait until the 25th, I'm happy to do it then.
Answer her question if you'd like, Sean.
Please answer the question if you know the answer.
Yes, so their first subcommittee meeting will be February before the planning commission meeting, so it would be at 6 o'clock. They've set up the committee, and you, council, will take it up at your second meeting so that you can appoint the two members of council that you just talked about, and council can go ahead and make the approval.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks for that question. That's important that we do that, so I appreciate that. Any other questions on the agenda? Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the agenda.
Yes. Hubbard,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Again, I did not see Fisher yet. Knight,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We have no public hearings this evening. So we'll move down to item G, which is non-arranged participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak this evening? Looks like we have a few members of the audience present. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand using the raise hand feature that's in the participants window. If you don't know where the participants window is, If you take your mouse and go to the bottom of your screen, participants will show up. If you click that on the bottom part of the participants window, raise hand feature is there. If you're calling in from a cell phone, *9 will also alert us. Justin, are you seeing anyone with a hand up?
So far, I am not.
I am not either. Okay, we'll keep going for now. There's another spot on the agenda later if people want to comment then. Item H is communications, and there were 3 in the packet. Does anyone have any questions on the communications?
The wave board was not listed there. It's on Tuesday, the 26th at 8 o'clock at the wave, virtually from the wave office.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Just make sure I have it, Paul. Is that the? So you said it was the 26th. So is that,
26th is a Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Is it always the fourth Tuesday?
Fourth Tuesday, always well, I think it's always the fourth Tuesday, not the last Tuesday. It's the fourth Tuesday. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Why? I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, are we officially having the goal setting session on Saturday? Because that's not on here either.
Yeah, I'd like to if everybody wants to. We didn't, we didn't figure that out, I don't think completely until Saturday, but I think everybody was willing to do it again on Saturday from say 9 to 11 or so.
Sure.
That get you through forum, Paul?
Yeah, that'll be fine. I'll still have it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments on the communications? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into our first report tonight from our Public Services Superintendent. Welcome, Dan.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Dan.
I provided you with a 2-week report. I'd also have 2 updates that I didn't get on my report that I'd like to start with first. The first update is 2nd Street water main break is open now, where we had the barricades and everything. I didn't know at the last council meeting I was at that we only had the coal patch in one half of that hole. So Kurt came in this morning when he had time. He dug out the gravel and put some more coal patch in there and drove over it. So that's open. We use coal patch obviously in the winter because instead of gravel, it holds in the holes a little bit better. And obviously we can't get hot patch right now because it's not in season. Any questions on that?
And then we'll do a more permanent repair in the spring. Is that the intention?
That is the idea. Yeah. Once we can get asphalt, the DPW will dig that out and the DPW will go in with the roller and the hot box and we'll make it good as new or as good as we can with being a patchwork and a nice work.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Yep. My other update, we did preventative maintenance on the well out at well 2 out at Ryan Drive. When we do the preventative maintenance on that, we actually pour muriatic acid down at the well company does. They got a brush that goes up and down. They pump off the muriatic acid and all of the iron and scale and stuff that's inside that pipe. We try to hit each one of these wells every 5 years to do an inspection on them. So we did that process. We got the pipe back down in there with the pump and everything, chlorinated it, let it sit 24 hours, pumped the chlorine off so we could get our first residual. So we could do a back T sample and the pump failed on us. So the pump is 13 years old. Raymer has been working on our wells for 15, 20 years. I couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong with the pump. We thought at first that maybe it was a wiring. I mean, that well pump is down in the ground 200 feet and the wires has got to run down alongside the plumbing all the way down to the well pump itself. So talking to Raymer, if they could replace the pump right then, because they had the truck, and I don't know if everybody knows the rig size of trying to pull a well of that magnitude. It's quite a big rig. They knocked $2,000 off of the price that we paid a few years ago to get that in, which it's over $5,000. But I thought with them being there and not wait until the next council meeting, it's something that we need to fix and we need to get back in service. Our equipment maintenance fund that we have can support this, but we had other things that we want to do preventative maintenance that talking to Justin throughout this whole process, and I think that we can put off until our next budget year and budget to get the iron removed from the filtration plant. So as of right now, the well pipe and the pump are back in. We're going to wait till next week till I get some more people in here to go ahead and rechlorinate it, do the back T samples, put it back online. Right now, with the water demand being so low, we're going to be fine without that well with the other four that we have. Any questions on that?
Dan or Justin, do you need any supporting motion for anything like that, or are we okay?
I was going to include it as an item on the next agenda to approve that work.
Okay, perfect. You got it covered then. Thank you.
I thought that I'd just give everybody a heads up and hopefully you respect my decision. I mean, it's a bad thing that happened, but hopefully we can save a couple $1,000s on it with having them there on site already. So.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, is there any questions on my 2-week report?
Anybody have their hand up? I'm clicking through here.
I don't see any at the moment.
I don't see any either. Hey, Dan, we have our methane gas thing fixed or not? I can't remember.
Yes, we do. Or no, we don't. I'm sorry.
Not yet.
There was two parts to that, and we got the chiller fixed a while ago, but we have not came back around to getting that on the agenda to get that approved.
Okay. Thanks. Just trying to stay up with it. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to wait a little bit and check and see how the sewer budget was holding up through the year, or at least for a little bit before bringing that back, because there's two potential fixes: one that's more expensive, one that's less expensive.
Gotcha. Okay, appreciate the update, guys.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I think I'm not seeing any other hands up. Am I missing anybody? No. Okay, we'll move on to our community development manager report. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine. How's council this evening?
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, that sounds okay, all things considered. Okay, before I go into my verbal updates, do you all have any questions you want to get off your chest right now?
Let's see it. Anybody have a hand up?
Yep.
I see Jamie
does.
Griffin's hand, blue hand. Thank you, Jamie.
Yep, thanks, Michelle. I guess I have a number of questions. I think there's just 3, so maybe I can put them all out there and then you can decide what order you want to respond to them. I'm guessing you're going to give us more details about the social districts. I did see some little, maybe like single party. So I saw the big white tent and then I saw other enclosures along the sidewalk. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. So I was just wondering if those are something that Beer Grotto did on their own, or if they're at all part of that. That question. Do you want to take them in turn? Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Why don't we take them one at a time, if that's okay? Because
Yeah,
I will not remember all of them.
Right.
So
Right.
I think I heard you say, because there's some, it's breaking up a little bit, and I don't know if it's my end or your end, and it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
You were asking about the little enclosures that Beer Grotto has put up.
Right.
Those are part of their regular outdoor seating area and are not part of the social district.
Okay. That's what I wanted.
But I'm glad you brought that up, because Dexter Pub will also be asking to have something similar in front of their business. And they're also going to check with their neighboring property owners to see if they'd have any problem allowing the pub to put some additional, those are actually just plain old garden sheds. If those property owners would mind. If the property owners don't mind, they'll put something in writing when the pub makes the application. If they do mind, they won't put anything in writing, and the pub will only get whatever, probably 3 little garden sheds.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying that. I don't know if I don't know if it makes sense to go more in topic, because maybe other people have questions about social districts, because I have a question about the outdoor service area and then also the medical marijuana.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jamie.
So the outdoor service area, it just said the realization was that they had to go back to the planning commission for another public hearing. I know that we had just made some changes too, and we'll be talking about it later on the agenda about the kennel ordinances, pet ownership. Can you just maybe generally, or as it relates to these specific examples, describe when something gets what triggers something to be sent back to the planning commission versus when we make changes and it stays with us?
So one of the, Zach had brought up a couple of really good points regarding the outdoor service area, and that the definition between outdoor service area, outdoor display, and outdoor storage had some, in some ways they were a little too similar and needed some additional work to ensure that the uses that were intended for those 3 definitions were clearly differentiated, if you will. Excuse me. While I was going through that process, we figured out that there's a portion of the village commercial, the special land use section that did not get included in the public hearing notice or that the planning commission reviewed. And as such, that altogether will constitute a substantial change and substantive change. And because of that, I have to re-notify or do a new public hearing notice for the planning commission to officially, properly reconsider before it comes back to council.
So it's based on how major of a change was made?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay.
If let's say that the comments that were associated with the definitions could be done in such a way that it was minor grammar, it didn't change the intent or impact regulations to specific districts, then that could be done without going back to PC, and you guys could take care of it. But that's not the case in this one.
Okay, thanks. My last question for medical marijuana, I did my best to read through, those detailed and definitions and all of that. Can you say what the practical take home message is? What had been the prior situation for medical marijuana here in Dexter, and do these changes impact what will be how that will be implemented here in the city of Dexter? Like what is the take home in sort of layman's terms, I guess?
Okay. There's 3 different medical marijuana acts. The first one that was done, it's known as the I can't even remember, first initiated law number 1. That's the Medical Marijuana Caregiver Act. That's the one where a qualified licensed person through the state is permitted to grow up to 12 plants for him or herself, and up to 12 plants for up to 5 patients that are permitted to receive and use medical marijuana. The previous ordinance of a couple years ago did have medical marijuana as a home occupation specifically. But the Court of Appeals heard the DeRuyter versus Byron Township case, and they ruled against the township. And at that time, our legal counsel suggested that, or recommended actually, that we remove it because there was no way to know how long it would take if it would go back, if it would go to the Supreme Court, and how long that would take for that decision to be made. The decision's now been made by the Supreme Court. It reversed the appeals court. And so the use of medical marijuana as a home occupation, based on the way the Byron Township ordinance was established, it met the challenge. The Supreme Court said, yep, municipalities, you can regulate it based on land use, and provided that you're not over-regulating, just for generic terms. And so the recommendation from city attorney was, don't recreate the wheel. Utilize the code that is in Byron Township because it has withstood a challenge. And so that's what the Planning Commission will consider in February at the public hearing. And ultimately we'll come back to you probably the second or the first or second meeting in February to consider. This does not allow any commercial sales, transmission, distribution, or cultivation in the commercial or industrial sense, and it does not allow the sale or distribution for recreational purposes. Further, one last component, with this medical marijuana home occupation, it allows that qualified, permitted caregiver to grow the plants and use his own cultivars for his medical purposes or her medical purposes. Distribution to his or her patients is not permitted on the property. A sale, distribution, use, etc. cannot happen on the property. The only thing the home occupation allows that caregiver to do is grow the plants.
So then where is it distributed, or?
That person is allowed to then take it to his patient's home or
Okay.
wherever. Yeah.
Okay. But could it be they're one and the same? Could the patient like live at that place? I guess then it's
not a home occupation anymore.
not home occupation anymore. But it's still permitted.
You couldn't have, let's say you had a husband and wife, brother and sister, cousin, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's that would be multiple businesses running out of one home, and the ordinance wouldn't allow it. But that's a really good question.
So if there's a single person who's using medical marijuana for themselves, they maybe would they register themselves as a home occupation, and then they can, consume it themselves? Or
let's say you've got a family of 4 people, mom, dad, son, daughter. Son is of legal age and has a caregiver card from the state. Unless he owns that property, he cannot have the home occupation. It could only be mom or dad or whoever is the one that owns that property and has the caregiver card issued from the state.
Okay.
And you can only have one.
I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe I'm being dense about this. So
No.
you have a couple, each, they're on their own, and one of them is, prescribed medical marijuana, or, that's part of their treatment plan or something like that. And it's just them. They're not, they're not a caregiver looking to have a myriad of patients. So how does it work in that setting? that are they allowed to grow and consume for themselves in their own
Yes.
home? Because they are, and that, okay, but it's under something else. It's not under this home occupation thing, or
It's not, yeah, that's not home occupation. That's just under the law.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, all good questions.
Yes, very good questions.
Jamie, anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have questions for Michelle before she?
I
goes
have
on?
one.
Okay, I thought I saw Waz hand up for a second. But
Oh,
Donna,
I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna clarify exactly what got clarified there at the end, because I thought I heard it in there, which was that if you have a medical marijuana card, you can grow your own medical marijuana. That's all.
Okay, Donna, welcome.
And our local law enforcement is the enforcement for the act.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Donna.
Who enforces the act?
Local law enforcement.
It is local. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good. That's all.
Yep.
Okay, still yours, Michelle?
Okay. Regarding the social district, we've done a slow, what restaurants would normally call a soft opening. And part of the reason for doing that is not all of our businesses have their permits from the Liquor Control Commission. And I thought it might be an opportunity, not just for the city to, kind of get a lay of the land for how people will act using the social district, et cetera. But it also gives the businesses a chance to work with their employees, because there's some subtle balancing that they have to do. And that became very apparent for Beer Grotto this past Saturday. They were slammed. And that ability to multitask, passing out beverages to the people who are in their regular outdoor seating area versus distributing an alcoholic beverage in the designated cup labeled per the requirements so that it can be consumed someplace else. That's going to take time for those servers and those businesses for them to also get the lay of the land for how to make sure to remember to ask people, is this for consumption here? Or, well, you're not at a table, so you're going to have to take it over here. Because technically they are not supposed to distribute the cup for consumption in their regular outdoor seating area. It's only supposed to be consumed in the social district and hopefully in one of the two consumption areas. So there's a ramp up for them as well as the city. As soon as all of the businesses have their license, I'd like to do a formal announcement and grand opening of the social district. That could be as soon as this weekend if both Aubrey's and the pub receive their licenses midweek. But again, I'm not in a rush to, make the big announcement publicly. Again, to give these businesses a chance to practice a few days before, the onslaught. And I say onslaught because the coming soon notices that I've put out on social media and on the city's website have gotten some pretty positive responses. So it's not like we're going to have millions of people, but I don't know if anybody was downtown on Saturday other than Wah. It was hopping. It was very busy. It was a nice day and people wanted to be outside.
True.
Michelle, you said that not everyone has received their permit. How many have applied for that?
So the 4 eligible businesses, the pub, Beer Grotto, Aubrey's, and Erratic Ales. Beer Grotto and Erratic Ales have their permits.
Okay.
I've distributed their labels and the required signage that they need to put up at their bars.
Okay.
As soon as I hear from Aubrey's and the pub that they've got their licenses, they will get their labels and their signage as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And last thing I'd like to say is to thank Dan and Kurt and their crews, because they were able to get those barricades up, get the water in them, and get the trash cans that are needed to keep that area clean. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate the support.
I'll pass it on. Thank you, Michelle.
So Michelle, are we putting any like circles or little tape marks on the ground or anything to delineate areas in the paved area or parking lot, or how are we encouraging the separation?
So there will be tables and chairs spaced out in the appropriate distances in the parking lot. Excuse me. Likewise, within the tent, they will be placed.
Okay.
And that should provide the structure that I think you're looking for. If we find that it doesn't, we can always ramp up the social districting or distancing measures.
Okay, I just noticed that it wasn't completely set up and wondered what was going on, so thank you.
And that concludes my report. Excuse me.
Okay. Let me just do a quick check. Anybody else have their hand up or have a question for Michelle?
I don't see any.
Okay. All right, very good. I think our next report is for you, Justin.
Sure.
You ready, sir?
Absolutely. So some of you may be familiar, some of you may not, with our ongoing Tyndall case. It's basically what we are permitted to allowed to discharge into the Huron River from our wastewater treatment plant. And there are, certain metrics that we're required to meet. And we've been in an ongoing suit with the state over what those metric levels are. It feels like the case is coming to a head. And in speaking with Dan, we thought that it might be appropriate to have a closed session at one of our upcoming meetings to invite either the attorneys or some of our engineers from FNV to come and speak to council and provide an update on that case. And I don't know if Dan, if you have any other thoughts on that.
No, I think it's a great idea. This has been going on for a long time, and a few months ago, they came out with a document similar to the one that I shared with Justin. That was a lot less than what we had negotiated and got permitted by the state when we put the new tertiary filters in. So anyway, I read the document, my staff read the document, and Justin has also read it, and I wanted to put it in somebody else's hands. F&B, they've helped us through a lot of this stuff with phosphorus and the upgrades to the wastewater plant, see what they think about it. And me and Justin shared that we need to come to council and explain where we're at currently with that, and make a decision on how we want to push forward. I think there's still going to be people that are going to be on this, against this as we go forward, but they're really close to what we finalized our Headworks project with the filters on as far as the limits, but they want to change them later down the road. So anyway, once we get all that information and get everybody to look at it, I'd like to share that.
Yeah, we're hoping that at some point here in the near future there will be a formal settlement agreement that council will likely have to bless. And so we want to make sure that council is up to date before we get to that point.
Thank you, Justin.
Sure. We also
Justin,
have a meeting.
before you go on, Justin, we're not the only one that's involved in this, though, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you want to list the other units of government that are involved in it, please, for us?
Most of
those-
the communities along the Huron River in Washtenaw County. So, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong. Ann Arbor, Chelsea, the smaller plant, Loch Alpine. So we're pretty much any community with a wastewater treatment plant on the Huron River in this area is involved in the suit. And we're actually one of the so Ann Arbor is obviously the biggest litigant as far as communities go, and so our fraction of the bill through the suit has been nominal compared to what Ann Arbor has been putting in towards seeing us through through the completion of this suit.
And I guess a question for Dan. This can also affect another plant being placed on there, whether it's from a city or from a subdivision, correct? And the amount that they may put into the same system?
The way I understand it, and that's another thing that we can go through with F&V when we get to that point. The way I understand it is the only way another wastewater treatment plant can go on Mill Creek or the Huron River with the limits that they have set currently is to take away from the other municipalities that are on there. And maybe that's changed, I don't know, but that was the understanding I had a year ago, that they weren't going to allow it. There was X amount of phosphorus that was going to be able to enter in Mill Creek or the Huron River from all the wastewater treatment plants.
That's my understanding too, and I think that's the watershed council's understanding as well.
Right. So, I mean, this is not only a decision, that we got to make now, but the way that they have it, it could possibly change in 2048, which seems like a long ways away. So we all need to be on the same page as we go forward on this.
Darn, I hope I don't have to be around for that decision.
Well, we hope you are, Paul.
Yes, we do.
I'll be forgetting more than I do there now anyway, so yeah, thanks.
So on another wastewater related note, Dan is working with OHM to put together some options for us for a water tap at the community garden now that the community garden has been relocated. So we'll be evaluating those options and their costs, and we're hoping to have a recommendation for you here at an upcoming meeting. I received a call from Amy Ozinski with the Dexter Guardian, who asked to do an interview, and we met last week. So if you see a little article about me and the city manager's office and in the Guardian, don't be surprised. Dan, OHM, and I met with Dan Waits about the property at 3rd and Broad Street. And I imagine, Sean, you'll talk about our meeting with the folks at the Ann Arbor Railroad Society last week about 3rd and Broad.
You can get started if you want, Justin. Go ahead.
Sure. So with the former meeting, Dan, OHM, and I met with Dan Waits today to talk through some options for the right-of-way that we're going to need for the 3rd and Broad Street project. And he was amenable to the options that we're presenting to him. One is he may need a water tap, and the potential cost of the property that we'll need for the 3rd and Broad project could translate into the contractor installing a water tap for a very similar price. He's still not 100% on what he wants to do with that property yet, and so we're looking at potentially drafting up an agreement that would allow us to reevaluate whether it's cash or whether it's a piece of construction work that gets done as part of the project in exchange for that property. And then Sean and I met last week with the Ann Arbor Railroad Society, which got to tour the inside of the building, which is a really cool setup if you haven't had a chance to get in there. They basically have a model railroad set that depicts from Detroit out to Jackson in order. And so you can follow through and see all of the kind of landmark buildings along the track. But during our meeting with them, they again expressed some issues with losing a significant amount of parking in that area. And so Sean and I met with OHM to look at some design options that would allow for the replacement of parking along Broad Street. So OHM is working on revamping or doing a little bit of work on the design to accommodate that. And we're hoping to have both of the agreements in place with both of those property owners by the end of the month, so we can keep moving forward on the Third and Broad project. Any questions on that?
Yeah, can I just expand on that topic on the Third and Broad, just so council's aware? We did a lot of listening. I don't think that that club felt like anybody had approached them or engaged them very well in terms of their needs and their uses. They're predominantly a Wednesday evening use, 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, that type of thing on Wednesday evenings. And they admittedly have taken great liberty over the years to basically park wherever they could in close proximity, because there's not a lot of traffic on Wednesday evenings from 6 to 10. And some of the things that project is trying to do with the bike lanes and making a little more definitive where the trucks should go and having a crosswalk from one side of Broad to the other, eat into their ability to just park freely. And anyway, we told them about the goals that council had tried to establish on the project and some of the things we were doing, and talked over the plan. But we did a lot of listening and just tried to convey those back to our design team at OHM, and with a few ideas that we noted when we were in the field. So anyway, if anybody has any questions on that, I thought I'd just add my part in here to Justin's report, since I had that in my report also. I see that Jamie's got her hand up, and then Donna. So Ms. Griffin?
Yep, thank you. I don't think I'm familiar with the details of that project, so I don't know if, first question, if a more general overview could be given. I do have it pulled up on my map so I can picture where things are at. And then two, another thought. So I did just pull up on our website, we have under current city projects, there's then a sub tab for road projects, and I'm looking at that, and it talks about the Grand Street reconstruction. I don't know if this is a project that's at this stage yet where there is something that we could be sharing. Like if somebody's like, oh, I wonder what all the road projects are that are happening, and they might, that might be where they go to look. I don't know if this project is at that stage where something could be added to the website as like a quick, here's a summary. So yeah, I guess two questions. Is a brief summary of what the project is, and is it at the point where we could be sharing something on our website perhaps in that spot?
Sure. So first, the Third and Broad project is looking to reconstruct 3rd Street and then around the corner and a little bit on Broad.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can picture kind of where the mill is, running from kind of Central Street down 3rd towards the railroad track, or kind of along the railroad tracks to where the Ann Arbor Railroad, where the depot is.
Okay.
And then a little bit around the curve, maybe, I don't know, 100, 200 feet, something like that. And so it's a full reconstruct. And then adding a crosswalk on Broad Street,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just a little bit either adjacent to or a little bit down from the depot. And so it would be full replacement of the pavement, and also
there's significant
some
drainage.
storm work. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
No, just talk about the drainage a little bit, Justin.
Yeah, so we do currently have some drainage issues in that area, and so managing the stormwater is also another significant piece of this project. There's a pipe that's no longer functioning properly to manage stormwater that's on the depot's property. And so we're looking to make sure that we have appropriate easements and reconstruct that pipe to manage that outfall. And then yes, the project would be appropriate to update the website in the road section, and that's something that I'll do here shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Jamie, at one time, you went around, obviously, but that is the truck route through the village there. Okay, it comes down Broad and then up 3rd Street and then back onto Central. At one time, you made the trucks came through the city and made a turn at Central there by the Dairy Queen and made that was before we did the DDA development downtown and narrowed that space down there. So it was changed for that reason, the truck route was. And so that's why there's a lot more traffic there for the trucks than was ever previously there, and why we have now decided to make that a priority to get that done, particularly as we finished up Central Street all the way up and try to make that happen.
And Jamie, as you've heard us talk about Watts, the Washington Area Transportation Study Group, we have the ability every, 3 to 5 years to request funding for our major streets that are federal aid eligible. And because that's a truck route, that is one of those sections of roadway where we can request funding. So we had to do that back in, like, I'm going to guess 16 or 17, whenever they put together their last plan. And then they take the money that comes into the area and they apportion it between the road commission and Ann Arbor and Dexter. And, we're a smaller road agents, much smaller road agency than the county or the other cities within our little metro area that's governed by Watts. So we sort of have to wait in line a little bit, if you will, but the project received high enough funding and the road's in bad enough condition that it scored well enough to receive some funding, and it was programmed for this year. So as you learn about the street networks a little bit, you're going to see certain projects from time to time that'll pop up and they're timed. And basically we do everything we can to make sure we're ready when that funding is ready so we can get it. If there was flexibility on that, we might have already been doing like, if we could be able to move it up, move it back. Things like Dexter Crossing have been moved around because sometimes of our ability to need to match money so we don't lose the federal funding. But in this case, that project is planned for this year, and that's just a little bit more background on that project.
Right. So actually, they're just about to release the call for projects for Watts for that tip money for the 2023 to 2026 set of years. So we'll probably need to talk about kind of what projects we'd like included in that plan here shortly.
Donna, thank you for waiting patiently.
Sure. Justin, when you were talking about Mr. Waits and you're talking about the tap, and you said he hasn't decided if he needs one, will that be related to him expanding his business or selling the property to somebody who might need the use?
It would be for his development of the property.
Okay, all right. And I have one more question. I believe that some time ago, I could be crazy, but he was talking about putting something residential in. Is that still something he's considering, or maybe he didn't mention that?
That is something that he's considering. He's just not sure exactly what that looks like, whether it's brownstones or
yeah, okay,
apartments or.
Good enough. Thank you.
Welcome. I did just have two other things. So I'm going to try and get the packet out for this coming Saturday's meeting on Wednesday. So I don't know if anyone has anything that they would like included in that wasn't included in the last packet. Otherwise, it'll just be the more or less the same packet that'll go out for this Saturday.
I'll have something that I will do my best to send to you tomorrow.
Okay. And then just a heads up that the Arts, Culture, and Heritage Committee is looking at their master plan and the projects and how those projects are rated as part of that master plan. And they will likely have a recommendation for an update to their master plan here within the next few meetings. And that's all I have for you.
Okay, great. Donna, did your hand pop back up or did it?
No,
Did you not
okay.
take?
I need to apologize. I'm sorry that I was here late. I have a new computer. I talked over somebody, couldn't find the button, but I've got it now, but it isn't where it used to be. So I forgot to take my hand down. So I'm going to keep working on this.
No problem at all. Jamie, I think your hand popped back up.
Yeah, is it possible, you had mentioned how in last week's email update, we had mentioned the goal setting work session and solicited some public input. Is another email update going to go out this week? And if so, could we mention that we're having a second one, and could we ask again if there's any more public input?
I can do that.
Thanks.
Okay, any further things to update us on, Justin?
That's all I have for you.
Okay, any questions for Justin? Okay. I don't have too much to update you on other than our finance director, Marie Sherry, was able to get a Google Drives set up for the applications for the search committee or for the city council or city manager search committee. She established that link in those folders just prior to the weekend. And I believe that the printed copies should be ready. Is it, Marie, okay for me to say tomorrow? I believe they're going to be ready within the next day or so. Okay, so Paul and Zach, your hard copies are coming of all the applications. And then we need to provide access so that the rest of council can see that that link. I was able to test it today and get to it. So it is active once you have the access and such. So be on the lookout for an email with that information in case people are interested in taking a look at those. I don't have too much to add other than there are some applications coming in for the various open committee spots. So I'll try to have some recommendations for the next meeting. You can look for that from me, and look forward to talking to everybody again this Saturday at 9 o'clock. I thought last Saturday's meeting was really good. 3 hours is a long time to sit there, but it was worthwhile and enjoyed it. So look forward to talking to everybody at 9 o'clock this coming Saturday. Does anybody have any questions for me on anything? My report's a little shorter since we covered some things under Justin's. Jamie?
Yep. So I see the mention about the street stubs here in Dexter Crossing.
Yeah.
Do you have any update beyond what you had in the report about that?
No, I don't. Just historical discussion if you want. So assuming everybody's read my report, Sanam had asked about what the status of activity is on the adjacent property. And Michelle was able to find out that the gas company was in there doing some clearing along the areas of their gas main. I'm not quite sure I even know where that gas main is on that property, but there's been concern over the years from residents that have lived there or moved there, that especially the ones that back up right against that now undeveloped property. There's always that question, what is that property going to become? That property is not in the city. At one time, this goes back way before me even, there was a plan for those two stubs to lead to a potential future phase south of the city, of what's now the city limits. We probably would need to ask our legal counsel, for an opinion on the question, could we abandon those? It's my personal opinion that we cannot. I believe that the property owner of the 80-acre parcel is different than the property owner of the other 240 or whatever it is acres that front on Baker Road. I think that, they have a right to that public access way as much as, maybe we're concerned about what that could bring in the future. But, I've always believed that when it comes to matters along the border, the best way to deal with that kind of stuff is to work with the other community. I'm not aware of an active plan at this point in time for that property. So I don't know if anybody else is, or Michelle, if you know something different there, but
Are you
Jamie,
talking about the 80 or the other portion thereof?
well, Paul, both. I
Okay.
haven't seen a plan or heard from, SIO on that in a long time. It was back, I talked with Jack Knowles when he was supervisor well over a year ago, because we met at the Grand Traverse Pie Company the last time we talked about it. And I know I haven't been in there since at least, probably 2019 or middle of 2019 at best. I'd have to go check my calendar. But that property is open, and it's held by folks that are in the development business. And it's always, at least since I've been on council, been a question of density. And, it's in Scioto Township. And they've been pretty firm on trying to hold to their density requirements, which has made it challenging for the developer to try and develop. And if earlier in this meeting, Dan talked about the idea that no future development could have their own treatment plant or treatment process that would be tributary to the Huron River. Well, this development most certainly would be tributary to Mill Creek in all likelihood. And so that Tyndall ruling, in a way, makes development on these of those properties quite difficult, or it requires them to have septic and wells rather than public utilities.
The only thing I can make a comment on that is that the Rotary Club asked Jack Knowles to give a speech about development in Scioto Township. He got through, he said, a third of the list in a half an hour, and was that's what we give our speakers, a half an hour. He only got through slightly over a third of the list there of development. It's amazing what was happening on Baker Road and that whole area down there on the other side of Jackson Avenue, on Marshall Road, all those types of things. And he didn't mention this development here. And you are right that the issue is density. But he did say that they were moving forward with it. But they haven't made any final plans to bring forth to the planning commission or to the township yet, but that they had that, and that was reaffirmed again in his participation in the forum about a month ago. Okay, a month and a half maybe ago as well. So it's the only piece of property that I understand that Mr. Heisler owns right now in his portfolio. It's the only one that he owns. All the rest of them, because of the bankruptcy, have disappeared. I can only say that because I've heard that from a number of people, but it's, if you thought that there was going to be a problem with the Tyndall group, wait till you get 700 Trout Unlimited people telling you what they want to happen on Mill Creek, okay? He hasn't seen anything yet until that happens, okay? And I know that they're already aware of everything that's there, and they've already had discussion on it, so I don't know what's going to happen with the property. It's been a long time, but I don't think it's going to be resolved anytime soon.
Jamie, I'd be happy to fill you in on what I know of it, in terms of recent history, and if you want to talk about it more. I'm trying to answer your question. I don't know if I did well enough or not, but I'm happy to expound upon it.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks. That's fine for now.
Okay. Just want to make sure you got your question at least somewhat answered.
Michelle has her hand up too.
Yeah, Michelle, go ahead.
Oh, the last time that I had spoken to Doug, which would have been after you met Doug Lewan of Carlisle Wortman, would have been after you spoke with Jack Knowles. It's still the same. Excuse me. They haven't been able to come to an agreement on the density, like you and Paul said. The township is still willing to purchase the property from Jim Heisler and his investment group at the price that they paid for the property. Excuse me. But both your conversation and mine, Sean, with the various representatives of SIO happened before this recent court case. So there may be movement because if he cannot do his own treatment plant, private sewer system, the township ordinance is clear. It's 1 acre zoning for septic systems. So that case alone may make some movement, may make some things happen. But I have sent Doug an email and asked for an update.
Jamie, I just thought since somebody was asking me about it, I wanted to make sure everybody knew that, it was out there. I wasn't really trying to open up the door on it. I'm happy to reach out to SIO and, see what they have to say. I used to do that from time to time with Jack just to stay in touch. And, if I learn anything, I'm most certainly going to bring it back to this group. But I just wanted everybody to know that the question had been asked of me.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. I think we're ready to move on to, well, I don't think there's any council member reports, right? Does any council member have anything that they want to add? There's nothing in the packet at this point. Ms. Fisher?
Are we moving on to consent agenda?
I'm ready if you are.
All right. I move we approve the one item on the consent agenda, bills and payroll in the amount of $82,056.63. That's it.
Okay, motion by Ms. Fisher. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Mr. Cousins. Thank you, sir. Ms. Jones, if you could call the vote to approve the consent agenda, I would appreciate it.
Okay, Fisher.
Yes, and I'm in my living room in Dexter.
Thank you. Michelle.
Yes.
Knight.
Yes.
Cousins.
Yes. Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Keel.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries on the consent agenda. We have 2 items under K, old business. Item K1 is consideration of amendments to the General Code of Ordinances, Section 10-38, pet ownership. Would someone like to move something? There is a draft motion on page 36.
I'm a pet lover. I'll make the motion. Following the city council hearing, public hearing, city council is considering the adoption of the proposed general code text amendments.
I'll
Okay,
second.
thank you. Motion by Cousins, second by Ms. Fisher. Thank you both. Okay, any discussion needed, or Michelle, do you want to just fill us in briefly as to, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think, but why don't you fill us in?
It is pretty self-explanatory, but if you don't mind, I'm going to have Michael do this, okay?
Oh, perfect. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. So these are the text amendments that council held a public hearing for on December 14th. At that meeting, after the public hearing, council voted to postpone action to allow staff to complete some minor changes to the language. And since that time, we updated the draft to clarify that pet ownership will be permitted in a residential dwelling instead of district, and some other minor punctuational changes. Staff also made some updates to the corresponding zoning ordinance text amendment. That is the next item on the agenda. And overall, the purpose of these amendments is to correct a conflict between the general code and zoning ordinance, and clarify that residents who own 4 or more pets are not required to obtain special land use approval and an annual permit. And then the corresponding zoning ordinance amendment would reestablish an annual zoning compliance permit requirement only for commercial kennels under the zoning ordinance.
Okay. Clicking around, I'm not seeing any hands or questions. Is it okay if I ask Ms. Jones to call the vote on this one?
Yep.
Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Yes. Griffin,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Keough.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Old business item K2 is consideration of amendments to the zoning ordinance commercial kennels. Is there anyone that wants to make a motion? We have 2 suggested motions.
I'll motion. Do you want me to read the whole? I would say number 1, the first motion. Pursuant to section 23.06 of the City of Dexter zoning ordinance, the Planning Commission's recommendations and input received during the public hearing conducted by the Planning Commission on December 7th, 2020. I motion to approve AP 2020.21-05 commercial kennel zoning ordinance text amendments as provided in the January 11th, 2021 City Council meeting packet.
Thank you for that motion, Ms. Griffin. Appreciate you reading it. It's good for the audience to hear it. So in case they don't have it in front of them, thanks.
I'll second, Sean.
And Ms. Fisher with the second. Okay, great. Any discussion? Mike, anything to add?
Briefly, the change made to these amendments since the December 14th meeting was removing the last sentence in the commercial kennel definition. After reviewing the kennel requirements as a whole, that last sentence, both in and of itself, is oddly worded and just wasn't a necessary clarifier to include. Pet ownership requirements and are established elsewhere, so there's no need to include that in the definition in staff's opinion. The memo included in the packet outlines the section 2306 criteria for considering zoning ordinance text amendments. And lastly, during the Planning Commission's discussion, just so council is aware, some items that came up and they may consider at some point in the future was that they discussed the potential of revisiting a current 10-acre minimum lot size requirement for commercial kennels, a current 100-foot setback requirement, and they'll also need to identify zoning districts where commercial kennels could be permitted. After reviewing the current ordinance, they're not actually permitted in any zoning district, and so as a legal land use the planning commission will need to designate where they can be permitted as. But that'll be an item they'll take up.
Okay. How soon do they need to do that?
Well, it's something that should be taken care of, but there's nothing pressing that would compel them to do it. It's just something that would be worth being proactive about, just to designate where the city feels that that use is appropriate.
Okay, well, let's try not to let a loose end stay loose.
Okay.
Or okay, I guess that's just my guidance on that. Thank you though for your update on that. Does anybody have questions for Mike? Okay, well done then. Ms. Jones, if you'd please call the vote. We had a motion
Yes.
approved by Jamie and a second by Fisher.
Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. Motion carries 7-0. We are down to new business. We have 3 items of new business in front of us. A new business item L1 is consideration of the Board of Review hardship guidelines. And wanted to remind everyone that there was stuff in the packet and then there was an update memo that was sent out. I think it was Friday, if I remember correctly.
That's
It's
correct.
also there in case we need to discuss that. Marie, well, why don't we get a motion on the table and then if we have to, we can have Marie go over stuff for us.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, to approve.
Second by Knight.
Okay, motion by Cousins. Thank you. Second by Knight.
And just to clarify that this is including the new information that was promulgated by email, not the one that's in the packet.
That's the way I understood it.
Yes, I understand unless somebody can counter that. Marie?
Am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I can.
I'm 2 for 2. Yes, it would include the stuff that was sent out on Friday because the State Tax Commission sent a bulletin update out Friday that included those 2 items that I didn't have specified in the hardship guidelines. Besides that, it's pretty much the same as last year, except updating the federal poverty guidelines.
And this is something that council adopts every year.
Yeah.
And it sets the poverty and hardship guidelines for what the Board of Review is permitted to consider when receiving exemption requests.
Okay, are there any hands up or for questions for Marie on this?
Marie, this is Paul again. Can you identify the members of the Board of Review for us? And the second question is, how many hardships did you have last year?
We have 2 existing members right now, which is Joseph Mafero and Carl Sperling. We have 1 vacancy. And last year, we actually did not have any requests. The prior year, we had 1 poverty. So we don't get a whole lot.
I think that speaks hopefully well for how we have been treating our citizens here, that we've had many more than that over the past few years.
Generally,
not a lot more, but a few more. Okay. And as I noticed the guidelines, they're much more detailed than they have been in the past. So I guess another question goes along that somebody comes in and can't fill those things out. Are they helped to fill those out? I think I know the answer to that, but I thought I'd ask it anyway.
Yes, either I can, or also Washtenaw County has a whole like employee that helps people with this type of thing,
Thank you.
if it's beyond my capability. Generally people that apply for hardships are on fixed income. They're, usually elderly on fixed income.
Yeah.
At least in Dexter.
Right.
Okay, Ms. Fisher?
I didn't mean to hit the button.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, no
All right,
problem.
I'll take it.
Wow, I see you have a hand up also.
Yeah, I have a question for Marie. On page 50, so it's under the assets, B, that 60-month clause. I mean, this is my first time really reading through something like this. That one just struck me as, is that standard? I mean, is that something that is in everybody's ordinance, or is that something we put in? I mean, that one to me is the only one that I was like, well, that could really be problematic, for somebody. I could see where that would be intentional and why that would be there, but I'm just wondering if you could give me some background on that one.
Well, this was actually redone last year by the Board of Review, and they relied fairly heavily on Ann Arbor and Saline.
Okay.
I would have to see if this was in our ordinance or in our resolution prior to that, but I believe it probably was.
Okay. I mean,
I
60
would really
months
have
is
to go
just
back
a
and get
long,
the answer to that.
60 months just seems like a really long time to me for somebody to be pre-planning for hardship. And I don't know. I mean, that's the only place where I was just questions.
Well, I can look it up if you want to. It may take me a moment.
I mean, for me, it's more of a principle thing, I guess. I mean, it's in there. Yeah, I could think up reasons why that could really like hang a person up from getting this unintentionally. And that just is something that I guess I want to state I'm not super comfortable with. But again,
Well,
I mean,
this does not have to be adopted at this meeting. We have until February 15th. I certainly can go back and do a little research on that paragraph and bring it back next time.
I mean, I don't want to hang this up if others don't feel the same way, because I also think this is, a really important thing to have in place for people who do need it. So I'm just trying to find, a balance of that.
Well, if we're comfortable, I mean, we can always modify it if you found something needed to be modified, right?
Sure. Well, yes and no, as long as we do it before February 15th.
Right.
Because we have to have this in place before Board of Review.
I guess my point is maybe you can check on the question, and if you find something,
Sure.
we can bring it back, but otherwise my thought is maybe we move it and let you do your checking as opposed to postponing it.
Sure.
But only if Wa's comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Zach, I see your hands up, sir.
Yep, actual hand. Question for staff here. The 2% or the 2 times the poverty guideline, is that pretty standard with our peer communities?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's see. I've been familiar how it worked in the past, but it seems like there've been a couple of changes. The 100%, 50, and 25%. If they're $10 over the cutoff, does the Board of Review, is that where they do the 50 or 25, or is $1 over that their SOL?
Yeah, well, that's something new that the legislature changed this year. The Board of Review used to have a little more discretion in this area. I would think that, yes, I mean, that's why I left the calculation in on the application. So that would help the board decide if it's going to be 25 or 50 or 100%. But yeah, I mean, it's at some point, yes, they are out of luck.
Okay. I would throw out there.
I'm sorry, the legislation change did not leave, it took away the Board of Review's leeway.
Okay. I would throw out there for the other council members that based on how few people have done this and the current challenges that people may be facing of using a 2.5 multiplication, in addition to the lack of flexibility that has been bestowed upon us by the state. But I won't vote against it if it stays at the 2.
You said you won't vote against it?
Correct. I'm just throwing out there, seeing if any folks might be interested in moving it to factor of 2.5.
What do you think is the benefit there? Just to put it in layman's terms, what you think that will do?
It would allow more people that are under financial stress to qualify for a partial reduction in their property taxes.
Basically, it'll increase the maximum amount somebody could earn before they became ineligible. I think I said that right.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think you're right.
I sort of like that we mirror the surrounding communities.
Well, I mean, I haven't surveyed this year, you know, what people were doing based on COVID, but this was from last year's, you know, rewrite of it. That, yes, the other communities did. I haven't surveyed what they're doing this year.
I'll make a comment about that. You know, I guess I have to think about the 2.5, but there are so few people that apply for these things that it's almost negligible for your tax dollars, to be quite honest, okay? If that's a concern, Sean, because in Scioto Township, when we had a big township, we had sometimes 8, maybe 9 people that would apply, period, all over. Generally 2 from Dexter. And then that was changed a little bit when the legislature allowed veterans to not pay at all. We had to, every year they had to apply. I know one of the veterans in town here passed away. I know that 2, and I know 2 of the other people that used to get it when I was on the board of Scioto Township, on the tax review board, that passed away. They're in the city of Dexter. So a lot of these people die off, and you don't ever see them again. Okay, there are some that are repeats over a period of time. So I could live with it either way. I just think that maybe with the COVID issue, that it could be a little more strenuous on some people this year than it has been in the past.
I guess the what I was thinking though is the real question is how many people have asked, and when you apply this standard, we've said that you don't fit.
We've had one person since I've been assessor who didn't necessarily fit the guidelines. And actually, she would have probably fit the guidelines as adopted last year because of the board had a little bit more discretion in last year's guidelines, but now the state has taken that away, so she probably wouldn't. In this person's case, it was more unexpected medical bills than actual income issues.
I think I could, part of that, Sean, is that in most cases, in Scioto Township, because we were in that, and I'm sure Marie is doing the same thing, is that when somebody comes in, they need help to fill out that form. This is a much more complicated form than we ever had in Scioto Township. But the clerk would generally, or the tax assessor would generally sit there, stand, or the clerk would stand there and help them fill out that form so that they filled it out correctly, so they would be sure that you did everything the right way. And so when you put it out of 8,000 people in Scioto Township, when we were dealing with, if you had 8 people, figure that percentage out. It was very, very small percentage of it, and most of those people, it was a heartbreaking case when they came in. You know, divorces, disasters that had happened in their life, and so forth and so on. So I understand your concept there as surrounding communities, but it was a lot of times just dealt very, 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 very conscientiously, and I don't know if I could use the word Christian-like, but try to get it done the right way for those people that really needed it.
Yeah, understood. I thought you had asked the question, did it match what the surrounding communities were doing? Or did Zach ask that?
I did.
Okay.
back to you.
I think we have a question from the audience that I'm inclined to maybe take. Ryan, did you have your hand up?
Yes, briefly. I was putting it up for when we get to non-arranged about this topic, but I was going to also suggest also support the idea of looking into what can be done to provide more flexibility to the board and more opportunities for people to be able to take advantage of it. The fact that it's not heavily used right now, some of that is likely due to just lack of awareness. I know that that's the way it happens with a lot of programs that are designed for hardship relief, is that people don't necessarily know about it. And this year in particular, people have gone through a lot of hardships. They're going through a lot of hardships. And so even though our community may not typically be one that has a large number of folks, like we're still in the middle of a giant pandemic. So anything that can be done to provide even a little more flexibility and humanity for folks is something that I would love to see. And thank you for council members considering that.
Thank you, Ryan.
There are several programs that are available through, or I don't want to say administered by, but they're kind of the point of contact through the county. And we have been putting, some of that information out with the tax bills that I think are a little more targeted towards the COVID thing. I'm thinking like Step Forward Michigan, which helps people who are having trouble paying either their mortgage or their taxes. There's a couple other programs that are out there, and we can certainly put that out in the email update more than we have been. But I just wanted to mention that there are programs available through the county that also can help people out.
And it did recently go out in an email update and Facebook post.
Okay. Well, I see you have your hand up. Thank you for waiting.
I just wanted to sort of, I feel like I wasn't very clear on what I was saying before, and it does feed into this conversation we've been having. And I mean, not to turn it back on myself, but that's my point of reference, right? Like if I were to get COVID tomorrow and I had all sorts of medical bills, what I would have to do is sell a property. That's all that I have. I don't have a retirement account. I don't have like assets, and that would be gone. And I'm not planning for that 60 months ago. So that's where I was coming from with that. And I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, understood what you're saying. Well, okay. Well, maybe do you want to postpone it then and see if that numbers change somehow?
I mean, I think it would be an easy way to provide more flexibility if we could cut that down, if that's really what our goal is here, because I can't imagine I'm the only person who would be in that sort of situation. I mean, medical bills are, I was just telling my mom the other day, medical bills could take me down. I'd be toast.
Well, I will say that last year, that was the Board of Review's really major concern when they wanted to rework the resolution that they recommended last year. And the bulletin that came down from the State Tax Commission on Friday was really a kind of knockback of what their intentions were. Especially, I mean, like with the lack of flexibility, I'll be honest with you, when I heard that they were recommending that, I talked to our Michigan Municipal League legislative lobbyist and told him that was really going to be a concern for our Board of Review. But apparently this was pushed by Treasury, and so there wasn't a whole lot of things that we could do from our end. But I mean, I have no problem looking into this and seeing if there's a way to get more flexibility, because I know the Board of Review wanted that.
I mean, I personally would like more flexibility wherever possible, just especially because of where we are right now in the world and the uncertainty that is still ongoing. I mean, hopefully it's going to be coming to a close sooner rather than later, but I think people are still catching up with what's happened in the last year. So even if it starts turning around, it doesn't mean it's going to happen for everyone.
Tom, since I made the motion, I'll make a motion that we postpone it till the next meeting. If Julie would second that, I can move us forward.
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, motion by Cousins to postpone till the next meeting, second by Knight. Any discussion on the postponement? Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the vote to postpone.
Yes. Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. So that will be on our next agenda under old business. New business item L2 is consideration of the recommendation from Parks and Rec Commission to adopt the 2021 to 2026 Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
That this little document that we have?
That little document, yep. Yep, what size binder clip do you have?
A big one, a real big one. The biggest one that you send out.
Am I missing anybody's hands up? I would think there, oh, Zach, there you go.
Yep. I move adoption of the resolution on page 59 of the packet to adopt the City of Dexter 2021 through 2026 Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Okay, thank you, Zach.
I'll second
there-
that.
Second by Fisher?
No, that was blah.
Oh, wow, sorry, I missed it. Okay, great. All right, so motion by Michelle's, second by Hubbard. Thank you both. I don't know if there's any comments here or not. Jamie, at our goal setting session this past Saturday, you brought up the idea of a greenways plan, if you will. Page 11, the natural features map is pretty close to that. At least in concept to me. It's not, I know, named the same.
Thanks.
Why, you have your hand up?
Yeah, would this be an appropriate place to ask about, like, just, like on the first page where it says City Parks and Recreation Commission amended December 15th, 2021, was that really 2021 or should that be 2020?
It should be 2020.
Okay, and is this an
So-
appropriate, I don't have like a whole bunch of stuff, but I have one other thing if this is an appropriate place.
Sure.
I just, don't ask me why I noticed this, but when I was looking through the parks that are existing parks and the amenities, the way that we refer to our toilets are like all over the place. So I don't know if we want to come up with like a uniform, like, I mean, and I don't know if there's like different, if porta john and porta potty and temporary toilet or whatever, you know, I don't know if they are different things or if that's just not consistent.
They're all the
Honey
same.
bucket?
They're all the same. And they used to be called outhouses, okay? In my day.
that's a fairly easy change. Do you have a preference on what we call them, Wa?
Porta john sounds not okay to me, so not that one.
Okay. Portable restroom.
I don't know. I just that stuck out to me. I don't know why.
Oh, that's fair.
Councilmember Fisher?
That's a fairly easily changed.
Yes. I could check with my
What you-
son-in-law if you want to
That's
know.
right.
You gotta-
anything about this.
Donna, you're in the business. Right?
Very close to the business, very close.
Okay, any other suggestions, Juan?
In their business
think so.
logo is John, Porta John.
Carol had called me a little earlier to let me know that we had missed the St. Andrew's Cemetery in addition to the other two cemeteries that we have listed.
Good catch.
Oh, actually, sorry. Is it okay if I say something else?
Sure, yeah, jump right in. Your hand's still up, so go ahead.
Oh, I'll take that down now too.
No, it's okay.
Question on page 44, the inventory of regional recreation facilities. You know, there's the number 5, the Washtenaw County Parks and Recreation. And there's some preserves on there that I think are under the county's natural area preservation project, which isn't mentioned, at least not in the parts that I got through. I was just wondering where in that inventory, like what the cutoff was, because I know there are places on that I go to that aren't on that list that I consider to be closer to us. And maybe I'm misjudging distance, but like, I'm just wondering how that list was compiled, because I think there are other places that could be added.
What do you think is missing?
For me, Westlake.
Is that a county facility?
Yep, and it's in Dexter Township.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any others like that you can think
Yeah,
of?
there's actually one, I think it's in Lima. It's on Trinkley, not Trinkley. Yeah, it's on Trinkley between Fletcher and Lima Center. There's another one there that's not on this list, I don't think.
That's one of the fairly new ones, right? Yeah.
And maybe, I don't even know if the one on Trinkley is on here. And I'm happy to look into it more and follow up with you if you'd like. Just because I really like that program and I really like those places. And so I think it should be out there for people to know about.
Okay. If we just want to add a bullet point that says something to the effect of addition of missing county facilities.
That works for me.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Sorry, caught me scrolling along. Anybody have their hand up for another comment on this? There's a lot of good work that goes into this. Okay, I'm ready to vote if everybody else is. Ms. Jones, can you please call the vote to approve the recommendation from Parks and Rec with the one additional bullet to update the county inventory as best we can?
Okay. Knight,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Justin, I think some of those places that were mentioned are actually on the map, just not written text.
They are.
That's possible.
But all good. So new business item L3 is a consideration of a bid award to Evergreen Tree and Restoration for an amount not to exceed $20,892 for the Mill Creek Park Slope Improvements Project, Phase 1.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Knight. Thank you, Julie.
I'll second.
Second by Fisher. Thank you, Donna. Justin, is this your item? I think it is, right?
It is. Although
Anything
I think
to update us on? I see a couple questions, or at least one. Oh, I see a question from Jamie. If you want to take that first.
Yeah, but I just have a general question about, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there some language somewhere that says we're obligated to take the lowest bid? Is that a thing?
So we have the authority to accept or reject any bids, basically for any reason. So we're not obligated to take the lowest bid if we have some reason to believe that they wouldn't do the job. And we have done that before, where we followed up with references and found that a contractor wasn't qualified to do the work, and so we went to the second lowest bidder.
Okay. I'll have to double check what I was thinking of, because my follow-up was going to be, if we were obligated to take the lowest bid, yeah, how do you know that somebody's, lowest bid actually means they can do the work? But that's,
yeah.
that was wrong.
And so because we haven't worked with Evergreen Tree before, myself and Paul Evanoff, one of our landscape architects, met on site with a representative of Evergreen, just to make sure that their understanding of the project was the same as what we were asking for, to make sure that their bid was consistent with the work that we expected of them.
Okay, thanks.
Good question. Other questions for Justin? Or Justin, anything we need to know? When would this work start, Justin?
So it would likely start in early February, depending on the contractor's schedule. But the goal is to have everything complete before the farmers market opens in May.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Okay, Ms. Jones, I'm not seeing any other hands, I don't think. Am I missing anybody? Please call the vote to approve the bid.
Okay, Hubbard,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. We'll do council comments, starting with our two student reps. Bella, are you ready to lead us off today?
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't have any comments today. It was a nice meeting. It was nice seeing you all.
Okay, thank you. Alex?
None, thank you.
Mr. Michelle's.
Yep, just one thing popped into my head that I'll throw out there to the ether, or for spaghetti, whoever, or dog hunting, whichever metaphor you prefer, what if we started our meetings off reciting the preamble to the Constitution? It's a really beautiful document, and I don't know, when I read it, it gets me excited. I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you haven't seen it in a while, give it a check. It doesn't take that long. The other thing is again, I'm going to say that I want for us to discuss the needs assessment that was prepared by the DAFD sooner than later. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. Ms. Fisher.
None for me tonight, thank you.
Mr. Cousins?
I just want to ensure that the Parks and Rec Commission gets their dues on their pops on their master plan. It was well done, and I remember when we didn't have one. So it's great we have this one as big as it is. I'm really happy that they're going to do the work there on the behind the farmers market there on that piece of property too, and I think that's going to make a major difference in the look at it there as well. So those two things, and just happy that the weather's holding out and we can don't have a lot of snow and ice.
Thank you, Mr. Cousins. Ms. Griffin?
I know Dan is, and Kurt.
Sorry, Paul, I didn't know you weren't done. Sorry.
Sorry, no, it was an afterthought there. Sorry.
That's okay. Jamie?
I don't have any tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Knight?
Yes, I too, like Paul, I'm very excited to see the improvements to the park slope by the, under the farmer's market there. 'Cause it's kind of an eyesore right now, and our parks are so beautiful. I think that will really enhance that area and make it very, very nice. I'm very excited about that.
Thank you for that. And last but not least, Wah.
Okay, this is kind of silly, but I just want to say I enjoyed the attendance of Marie's cat at today's meeting. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but he or she got some very good staring directly into the camera there.
Okay. We're going to move into non-arranged participation. I see Ryan has his hand up again. So Justin, if you could unmute him, please.
Sure. I would also like to second Wah's commendation of Marie's cat. Your cat's lovely. Pointed out to my wife on the TV. Thank you all for yet another discussion. I'm immensely grateful for a council that takes time to listen to folks and consider things carefully. I wanted to bring up two quick issues, one of which Paul was with me at the Dexter Forum last. There were a lot of discussions at the forum about the Dexter Senior Center, and and figuring out like how to ensure solvency and looking into what other communities are doing. So I'd be interested to know if there are plans in that goal setting to look into and address that. I think something around like what 20% of our community is over 65. If I'm remembering the last census data off the top of my head. So I think it's something that we can definitely find ways to support. I know that there's funding from the Ann Arbor Ann Arbor Community Organization and from the Lions and from a lot of other local sources, but they seem to be going through some difficult times and may not have physical space in the future. So I'm not deeply in tune with all the issues surrounding it, but I do just want to raise awareness of it and figure out what we can do to help our elderly neighbors. The second thing is actually just a joyous notification. So at the end of December, our friends at Avalon Housing voted to add me to their board of trustees. So this year I will be starting my first year term with Avalon. I'm really grateful for their partnership. They reached out to me asking if I'd consider coming on to join the board as a Dexterite, knowing that that a new community is coming in here in Dexter, and knowing that I'm passionate about trying to find ways to take care of our neighbors and provide space for our community. I'm looking forward to working with a lot of folks around. I've already had a lot of meetings with folks in the city about trying to make sure that we do the best by the residents who are going to be coming into those apartments at Hilltop View. So I just wanted to let you all know, just preemptively share that news. And thank you all for your continued partnership. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments, Ryan. Congratulations on your appointment there and your volunteering there. We did talk about the Dexter seniors or the senior center topic a little bit last Saturday. I anticipate it'll come up again. But we did get into that, and we had received one email on that topic from a resident as well. So it is on our minds. Thank you for making sure it is. Let's see, Marie, I see you have your hand up.
Yes. Am I unmuted?
Yes. You are unmuted.
So thank you for the comments about Gary. He is somewhere between age 19 and 22. And he, I have the meeting on my tablet today. So he was eye level to the tablet, and he was, yeah. So thank you for the comments about him. He's a good boy.
And Ms. Fisher.
Yeah, we have a board meeting. I'm speaking to Ryan tomorrow afternoon, and we will be talking about finance and locations and all those kinds of things. It's not something that we haven't talked about. We're in the process of trying to figure out what to do with it. And I don't know who you get your information from, who goes to forum, but Jim Carson's always really willing to talk to anybody who wants to talk figures and ideas. So I encourage you to get in touch with him if that's of interest to you. That's all.
Thank you, Donna. Justin, do we have anybody else that I can see?
I just had a quick comment. I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware that the contract with Evergreen is to do portions of the slope on either side of the stairs, not the entire slope. I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware of that.
Yeah, phase one, right?
Correct.
Thank you, sir. Okay. I'm not seeing any other people waving at me or blue hands. So if there's a motion for adjournment, I will accept one.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Fisher, second by Knight.
Sure.
Thank you both. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a good night, everybody, and a good week. Stay warm, and look forward to talking again on Saturday.
Excellent.
Yeah, good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
All right, that's done.